Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome retired Brigadier General and American hero, Don Bulldog.
I guess that's famous now. Well, anyways, God bless you all. Welcome here on a wonderful American holiday, President's Day, which, the law hasn't changed. It's still designed to recognize our first president's birthday, but it has become much more than that to us, right? Well, welcome here. My name's Don Baldick. I served our nation for 36 years. I went into the private, worked my way up through the ranks. I am a member of the American Legion, and I consider this to be hallowed ground. Anywhere that recognizes and honors the service and sacrifices of our veterans, our service members, and their families is hallowed ground. That's right. And I am honored to be here in South Carolina. I hail from New Hampshire, the live free or die state, and it's an honor to be here because South Carolina is synonymous with service, sacrifice. It's a great state. It's a state that honors our nation's values and principles, and the people here are hard-working people who love their families. She not only will help the economy, she'll fix education, she'll make the justice system fair, she'll fix the border situation, she'll fix the immigration situation, she will take care of our families, but most of all, her passion, her empathy for people, her understanding, and the willingness to serve all and be inclusive will heal this country's divisiveness, something that Biden and Trump cannot do. They just simply can't do it. There's too much going on there. There's too much grievances, there's too much divisiveness, there's just too much going on for them to be able to stand up and represent all. As a matter of fact, President Trump has excluded many people from being in what he considers MAGA. And that's wrong. America is strong because of its values and principles, because we come together as one. E pluribus unum. Come on, it's all over the place. This is what makes America great. And Nikki Haley knows that. And not only that, she lives it and she breathes it. And she'll sacrifice for you 100%. The other thing that I want to talk about is, as a veteran, I'm not happy with what the Biden administration has done for veterans.
That's right.
And I am certainly disappointed in the recent comments of the former President of the United States about Michael Haley and his service, and how he tried to negatively characterize his service. And he did it now, after he was president. But what did he do when he was president? He insulted us then too. And we forgave him and we gave him a bye because he was our president. We shouldn't have. We should have remembered that he doesn't respect veterans and their families. Talks a good talk, says the right things with his hands and his facial expressions and everything else about him, but he doesn't mean it. Because if he did mean it, he never would have made the comments about losers and suckers. Amen. To a general who lost his son in combat in Iraq. He wouldn't have questioned what's in it for wounded warriors in Arlington Cemetery. Well, I'll tell you what's in it for them, Mr. President. They sacrificed. They went to war and left a part of their body and blood on the battlefield and are there to recognize the men and women who didn't come home. That's what's in it for them. Amen. And if you don't understand that as our commander-in-chief, and you don't learn that lesson after you're commander-in-chief, you do not deserve to be commander-in-chief. Amen. You do not deserve to represent us. 23 million veterans, 1 million strong in our military. These are men and women who sacrifice every single day, less than 1% of our population. Only 13% of our population has served since the Revolutionary War. This is something that's a calling for people. And we need a president that is going to bring us together, that is going to be able to give us a message that is consistent with our values and our principles, that America is the greatest country in the world, that America will do the right thing, but only if it has the right leader. And I'm telling you right now, that leader is Nikki Haley. She will bring us together. So without any further ado, I want to welcome to the stage the next President of the United States, Nikki Haley!
In Sumter. It's a great day in South Carolina.
Amen.
You know, it's so humbling to be around a patriot like General Bolden. He won't talk to you about his service, but I have to mention it. He didn't go to Afghanistan once. He didn't go to Afghanistan twice. He deployed to Afghanistan 10 times. 10 times the sacrifice and service he gave to our country. He's a true soldier. Even though he became a general, he's a soldier's heart, and I love that about him. And service isn't enough, even after retirement. Now he is serving as a law enforcement officer. That's what our military do. The service never ends. So God bless you and Sharon. Thank you so much for being here with us. Take you back and remind you of all the things that we did together. You know, when I came in as governor, we had 11% unemployment. We had thousands of people on welfare, and South Carolina was the butt of the jokes. And we rallied, and we got together, and we started to get to work. And by the time I left, that 11% unemployment went to 4%. We were building planes with Boeing. We were building more BMWs than any place in the world. We brought in Mercedes-Benz. We brought in Volvo. 5 international tire companies, Continental included in that. And by the time I was done, they were naming us the Beast of the Southeast, which I still love. We announced jobs in every county in the state. We cut taxes. We built up our coffers. We paid down debt. We did pension reform. We did tort reform. But we acknowledged some truths. We said if you have to show picture ID to buy Sudafed, if you have to show picture ID to get on a plane, you should have to show picture ID to protect the integrity of our election process. We passed voter ID in South Carolina. We passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. President Obama sued us over it, and we won. And we put all of our political elite and elected officials on notice. We started requiring them to show you their votes on the record instead of hiding behind closed doors with voice votes. We required them to start showing you their income so that you could see exactly who was paying them. I vetoed $500 million worth of pet projects that we didn't need our taxpayers paying for. And then by the time I left being governor, we were named the friendliest state in the country. One that I'm really proud of, the most patriotic state in the country. And don't blame me for this one, we were named the #2 state in the country people were moving to. And now I'm running for president. And if you look at what's happening, you don't have to turn on the news to see how tough it is. We're $34 trillion in debt. We're having to borrow money just to make our interest payments. China owns some of that debt. For the first time, we're paying more in interest payments than we are in our defense budget. You know who notices that? Russia, China, and Iran. And I would love to tell you that Biden did that to us. But I've always spoken to you in hard truths, and I'm going to do that with you today. Our Republicans did that to us too. You go back and look at that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that they passed with no accountability. They expanded welfare that's now left us with 80 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. That's a third of our country. And did they try and make it right? Nope. Republicans doubled down and opened up pet projects and earmarks for the first time in 10 years, pushing through 7,000 of them a year ago. That's not how they're supposed to be dealing with our money. They're raiding Social Security. They're spending like drunken sailors, and they're forgetting it's our tax dollars that they're spending. So what should we do about the economy? The first thing we do, let's claw back the $100 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are still sitting out there. Instead of 87,000 IRS agents going after middle America, let's go after the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud. 1 out of every $7 was spent fraudulently. If 8% of our budget is interest, quit borrowing. Cut up the credit cards. You have to balance a budget every day. I had to balance a budget as governor. Why is Congress the only group that refuses to balance a budget? We'll stop the spending. We'll stop the borrowing. We'll eliminate the pet projects and earmarks. And I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. That will save us trillions. Then we'll take as many federal programs as we can and we'll send them down to the state level. That will dramatically reduce the size of the federal government, but it will empower people on the ground. Think education, think healthcare, think welfare, think mental health. When we cut those strings and send that down, states can start to customize that to where the people can use it the best, not Washington bureaucrats deciding that. And then we need to open up the middle class. We're watching the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. We're going to open up the middle class by cutting taxes on the middle class, simplifying the brackets. We're going to eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax in this country. And we're going to make small business tax cuts permanent. They made them temporary. We're going to make them permanent. Small businesses are the heartbeat of our economy. We need to start acting like it. Amen. And when you talk about the fact that Congress is spending, do you know they only have one job, and that's to give us a budget on time? Do you know Congress has only given us a budget on time 4 times in 40 years? 4 times in 40 years. Do you know what I say about that? When I'm president, they don't give us a budget on time, they don't get paid, period. Don't you think it's finally time we had term limits in Washington, D.C.? Don't you think we need to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75? And let me say this, I'm not being disrespectful when I say that. We all know people over 75 that can run circles around us. And then we know Joe Biden. Congress has become the most privileged nursing home in the country. And we have to take this seriously. These are people making decisions on the future of our economy. These are people making decisions on our national security. We need to know they're at the top of their game. And then let's talk about the border. I can't believe we're allowing this in the United States. 8.5 million illegal immigrants have come to that border. We had more fentanyl cross the border last year that would kill every single American. Number 1 cause of death for adults 18 to 45, fentanyl. And don't think for a second China doesn't know what they're doing when they send it over. Now, we passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. I think we need to take what we did in South Carolina and go national with it. We should do a national E-Verify program and require all of our businesses to prove that the people they hire are in this country legally.
All right, yay.
Let's defund sanctuary cities once and for all. No more safe havens in America. We're going to put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. Let's go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that no one even steps foot on U.S. soil. And instead of catch and release, let's go to catch and deport. That is the way we will deal with what's happening on the border. And you look at that bill that came before Congress last week. Now, the issues with that bill, first of all, it strengthened asylum laws, which we need. 3 million illegal immigrants came in during the Trump administration because our asylum laws weren't strong enough. But it was weak on Remain in Mexico, and it had a 5,000 person threshold. We don't even want a 1 person threshold. But the problem is, Congress can't just go home for 2 weeks, which is what they've done. They need to get in a room and figure it out and pass a strong border bill. But then you have President Trump telling them, don't pass anything before the general election. We can't wait 1 day to pass a strong border bill. So Congress needs to get in a room and figure it out, and Donald Trump needs to stay out of it and let us get our Americans safe. And you know, my parents taught me in Bamberg, South Carolina, that you take care of those who take care of you. I'm going to ask you for taking care of those who take care of us. Right now in America, over 35,000 of our veterans are homeless. 1 in 3 suffers from PTSD or thoughts of suicide. We lose 22 heroes a day to suicide. If a veteran needs a doctor's appointment at the VA, on average, takes 29 days. Why 29 days? Because on the 30th day, they can go to the doctor or hospital of their choice. So midway through the 29 days, they get a call to reschedule, and the clock starts all over again. It's shameful how we treat our veterans. Now, I'm the proud wife of a combat veteran who served in Afghanistan. And when Michael came home to us, that was a lot of prayers answered. But that was the easy part. When we got home, life got hard. Michael couldn't hear loud noises. He couldn't be in crowds. Life had passed him by for the year that he was gone, and the transition was tough. We can't just love our men and women when they're gone. We gotta love them when they come back home, too. So we need to do more than a 2-week transition. We need to make sure that they have telehealth so they can get the mental health care they need right when they need it. They should be able to go to the doctor or hospital of their choice. They've earned that right. And I think the best way we deal with VA health care, I think every member of Congress should have to get their health care from the VA, and you watch how fast that gets fixed. It'll be the best health care you've ever seen, guaranteed. And then let's talk about national security. The world is on fire, literally. You've got a war in Europe. You've got a war in the Middle East. You've got North Korea testing intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of hitting the U.S. You've got China on the march. But make no mistake, none of that would have happened had we not had that debacle in Afghanistan. The idea that my husband and his military brothers and sisters who served there had to watch us leave Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling our allies who stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades because we asked them to be there. Think about what that said to our friends. More importantly, think about what that said to our enemies. And now we look at a time where we need to be holding them to account. You've got Joe Biden putting his head in the sand. And you've got Donald Trump, who said on a stage in Conway that not only would he not defend NATO countries if they didn't pull their weight, but that he would encourage Putin to invade the countries if they didn't pull their weight. Now, keep in mind, that means Trump is siding with a thug where 500,000 have been wounded or murdered because Putin invaded Ukraine. He sided with a dictator who kills his political opponents. He sided with a tyrant who's made no bones about wanting to destroy America. And you're going to side with something like that over the allies who stood with us at 9/11? What are we doing? We all want them to pull their weight, without question. But you don't go and put our allies in harm's way and our military who are serving there right now in harm's way. And what's Putin's response? Now he's putting forces around the Baltic countries. And guess what? He said, once he takes Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries, and that puts America at war. We are trying to prevent war. We should always try and prevent war. So we know what we need to do for our domestic policy, our national security. We'd take everything we did in South Carolina, and we'd do even more than that. We'd clean up Washington, D.C. the way we cleaned up South Carolina. But we've got to acknowledge some hard truths. I voted for Donald Trump twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. But the truth of the matter is, chaos follows him. Yes. We know it. In everything he touches, chaos follows him. And just look at what's happened through this race. We had 14 people in this race. I defeated a dozen of the fellas. I just got one more fella I gotta catch up to. They said we didn't have a chance going into Iowa. We had 2%, we got it to 20%. They said we were 30 points down going into New Hampshire, and what'd we do election night? We came in at 43%. And we watched Donald Trump throw a temper tantrum on stage. He was completely unhinged at me getting 43% of the vote. And all he did was talk about revenge and my dress. The next day, he says anybody that supports her is barred permanently from MAGA. Now think about that. If you're running for president of the United States, your job is to bring people in, not push people out of your club. And then the next day, he tries to push the RNC to name him the presumptive nominee. No, we don't anoint kings in America. Right. We vote. And South Carolinians deserve the right to vote, as do so many other states, and we're going to let them have their chance. Then he has a court case and he loses. And then he loses another court case. And he goes on a rant and talks about being a victim. All day, every day. Look at his rant last night, calling me names and talking about being a victim of court cases. The problem with all of that is at no point from New Hampshire or through these court cases does he ever talk about the American people. At no point is he talking about we're $34 trillion in debt. At no point is he saying that 31% of eighth graders, only 31% of eighth graders are proficient in reading. He's not talking about the lawlessness at the border. He's not talking about the lawlessness in our cities. He's not talking about the wars around the world. All he's doing is talking about himself. And that's the problem. But let's also look at what Americans are saying. 70% of Americans have said they don't want to see Trump and Biden in a rematch. Over 59% of Americans said they think Donald Trump is too old and Joe Biden's too old to be president. You look at the fact both of these men put us trillions of dollars in debt that our kids are never going to forgive them for. Under Trump's economy, yes, it was good, but at what cost? He put us $8 trillion in debt, the most of any other president. He wants to say that's COVID. That was less than 20% of it. That's not how you build an economy. That's a facade. And so you look at all of these things, then look at his record. He lost it for us in 2018. He lost it for us in 2020. He lost it for us again in 2022. But look at last week. He lost another case on immunity. He'll be tried as Citizen Trump. Republicans lost a bill on Israel. They lost another bill on Mayorkas and the border. The Republican Party chair lost her job, and Donald Trump's fingerprints were on all of it. Everything he touches, we lose. Yes. How many more times do we have to lose to realize that maybe he's the problem? There will be a female president of the United States.
All right, all right. Hey, hey.
The hard truth, it's either going to be me or Kamala Harris. Because as much as we want to turn our country around, we can't do that if we don't win. And Donald Trump can't win a general election. Don't take my word for it. Look at any of the general election polls. He's down to Biden, regardless of what he says, he's down to Biden 5 points, 7 points. On his best day, it's margin of error. They're even. I'm in every one of those same general election polls, and I defeat Biden by up to 17 points. Do you know what that means? That's bigger than the presidency. That's House, that's Senate, that's governorships, that's school boards. That's a way we can turn our entire country around. But you win by double digits. That's a mandate going into Washington, D.C. to stop the wasteful spending and get our economy back on track. That's a mandate to get our kids reading again and go back to the basics in education. That's a mandate to secure our borders with no more excuses. That's a mandate for law and order back in our cities. And that's a mandate for a strong America that prevents war, that we can all be proud of. Don't you want that?
Yes. Yes.
Because we could have that. But in order to have that, it's going to take a lot of courage. Courage from everybody here. Courage for me to run. And courage for every one of you to know, don't complain about what happens in a general election if you don't vote in this primary.
How about that?
It matters. You know, 7 months ago, I dropped my husband Michael off for another year-long deployment. And I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they've never been, all in the name of protecting America. They're willing to sacrifice their lives and their families because they still believe in this amazing experiment that is America. So if they're willing to sacrifice for us there, shouldn't we be willing to fight for America here? Because we have a country to save. You know, I turned on the TV a couple of days ago, and I saw Donald Trump was running an ad against me. Interesting, because he says he's not worried about me, but he's running ads, he's saying all these things. And in the ad, he said something like, I was for open borders and raising taxes. And you know what, and cutting Social Security, which is false as well. But you know what I was thinking? If he's going to lie about me, I'm going to tell you the truth about him. Do you know when he was president in 2018, he proposed a 25-cent per gallon tax hike on all of us? Do you know right now he wants to raise taxes on every American family? He wants to put tariffs on everything that comes into our country, from baby strollers to appliances. Every American family will pay over $2,800 more per year. Do you know he wants to cut Social Security benefits? He's not going to touch it. So when he leaves office, everybody gets a 24% cut. That's what he doesn't want you to know, but that's what I think you should know. When it comes down to it, you have a choice. Do we want more of the same, or do we want to go in a new direction? More of the same is not just Joe Biden. More of the same is Donald Trump. And if you look at where we are, do we really need to say the best we can do are 2 80-year-old candidates? Because we need someone who can serve 8 years, fully disciplined, no drama, no vendettas, just results and getting work done for the American people. You know, I talked about all the successes we had together, but we had some challenges too. Whether it was a school shooting, whether it was Walter Scott getting shot 8 times in the back by a dirty cop, whether it was multiple hurricanes, whether it was a 1,000-year flood, or whether it was the murders of 9 amazing souls at Mother Emanuel Church. And when that happened, there were riots all over the country. We saw it in Ferguson. We saw it in other cities. But look at what we did in South Carolina. In South Carolina, we came together in all of those crises. We came together, and we didn't have riots. We had vigils. We didn't have protests. We had prayer. Because the tone at the top matters. We brought down a divisive symbol that had divided our state for a long time. But I didn't judge either side. I didn't pick who was right or who was wrong, because that's not what a leader does. What a leader does is bring out the best in people so that we can make the best decisions together. Now we need to do that for our country. Can you imagine a time where we could actually sit down for dinner and not fight over politics? Can you imagine a country that doesn't have all this anger and division and hate? Can you imagine a country where you could go to work and say your views and not worry about being demoted? Americans deserve that. But you know what? The younger generation deserves that more. They've been through a lot. You look at what they went through with COVID. You look at the fact that the younger people, they're worried about whether they're going to find a job. They see all this debt. They don't know how it's going to affect them. They sit there and look at how will they ever afford a home. But they also feel the anger and the chaos. They don't deserve that. This is more than just about us. It's about them. That's why we need to do this. And all you see from Joe Biden and Donald Trump is bad-mouthing the other side. And they refuse to see that we're all Americans. And they refuse to see that when we go back to being the country, you'd be surprised at how many of your family and friends just vote in general elections. In a general election, we're given a choice. In a primary, we make our choice. Anybody can vote in this primary on Saturday as long as you didn't vote in the Democrat primary on February 3rd. So you can go to the courthouse between now and Saturday. Saturday, you go to your regular polling station. All you need to do is take a picture ID. That's it. So this is what I will tell you. When I announced that I was running, the reporters asked me why I was doing this. And I said, my parents came here 50 years ago to an America that was strong and proud and full of opportunities. I want them to know that country again. I'm doing this for Michael and his military brothers and sisters because they need to know their sacrifice matters. They need to know that we love our country. I'm doing this for my daughter who just got married, and I saw how hard it was for her and her husband to buy a home. The average home buyer in America now is 49 years old. The American dream is leaving them. And I'm doing this for my son, who's a senior in college. And I am tired of watching him write papers of things he doesn't believe in just to get an A. That's not us. That's not America. And for the first time, 81% of Americans don't think their kids are going to live as good of a life as we did. We can't be okay with that. I'm not okay with that. We do have a country to save. But I'll promise you this. If you will join with me in this movement, if you will join with me in this fight, I will do for you what I did for you when I was your governor twice. I will spend every single day trying to prove to you that you made a good decision. God bless you.
Where? I sorry.
We'll get a picture with him.
Yeah, yeah.
I know, the sun keeps coming out and going back in.
Your phone?
Oh, she letting people in? I think so.
Picture, picture to the maps.
Was it fun?
What?
Was it?
Nawala yung pagkachismosa. Magalaw. Wala kasi akong tawag nito, yung ano tawag nito, yung hawakan, ano, kamay lang. Diyan siya sumakay, oh.
Oh, the campaign truck.
Yung mga cameraman hindi na live. Ako na lang. Patawa. She's great. Shout out. Dito siya kanina nakatayo. Strong and proud. Nikki Haley. What?
You guys got a cool
We should bring our stickers and sign by the
30 minutes, 45 minutes.
stickers. Stickers of the car.
Ready to roll?
Yeah. Okay, okay. Bye for now. Bye for now. We're going. Shout out people. Bye for now. Kasi we're done. We're done.
You see why I picked this small town?
Yeah. Alam mo, tingnan niya. Ito, cameraman sa akong gilid. Kinokompetensyahan ko siya. Hindi niya alam live ako. Si Saida. Ayan si Saida. O, kompetensya kaya, ano, sa gilid ko. O, cameraman. Kinokompetensyahan ko. Ayan. Maganda angle. Ang gulo. Okay. Bye na, bye. Bye-bye na. Punta na kami sa aming car.